And thank you for joining us here today, lovers of architecture, history, theater, and social justice. I'm Barbara Lee Diamondstein Spielvogel, the chair of the Historic Landmarks Preservation Center, a group of dedicated individuals committed to informing the public about the past, present, and future of our city. Our warmest thanks to the collaborative board of this fine building, 29 East 9th Street, to Tom Kirdahy, and to the absent, felled by, I think, a flu shot, the New York Times' Philip Galanis, who was an early initiator as well. Thank them all for their interest, assistance, and support, and for joining us here today to commemorate the life and remarkable work of the playwright and activist Terrence McNally. For those who ask, also a special welcome to both Peter McNally, brother Peter McNally, and the Kirdahy family who have joined us as well, and to the many widely known and yet to be discovered persons who've joined us. Our thanks for being here. For those who asked, this is a Zoom program and it is being recorded, and the video made available through the Diamondstein Spielvogel video archives that are part of the David Rubenstein Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Duke University. And now for our program. Described by the New York Times as the bard of the American theater, Terrence McNally's career spanned 6 decades, and his plays, musicals, and operas were performed around the world. He was born in Florida to 2 transplanted New Yorkers. And though far from Broadway, Terrence was exposed to musical theater by his parents, who took him at the tender age of 8 to 2 memorable performances with 2 Ethel experience remained with him for many years after the family relocated to Corpus Christi, Texas. Terrence's creative talents were encouraged by a gifted English teacher, and I think many here can probably think of another teacher who inspired them in their life and work. She suggested to Terrence that he become a journalist. So, at the age of 17, he moved to New York to attend Columbia College, from which he was graduated with a BA degree in English. After graduation, the writer John Steinbeck hired him to tutor his 2 young sons on a round-the-world cruise. On that trip, he completed what would become the opening act of his first Broadway play, entitled And Things That Go Bump in the Night. When he returned to New York City, McNally became active in regional and off-Broadway theater movements with plays that protested the Vietnam War and satirized family dynamics, I guess another kind of battle, and sexual conventions. His work became a part of the social protest movement of the 1960s and early 1970s. By 1964, his first Broadway play that I just referred to, And Things That Go Bump in the Night, put homosexuality front and center on the stage. The problem was it was a critical flop. But producer Theodore Mann reduced all ticket prices to $1, and the production ran with sold-out houses for 3 weeks. McNally became one of the few playwrights to successfully make the transition from avant-garde theater to Broadway, and after a series of well-received comedies, which included The Ritz in 1975, and during the beginning of the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s, his writing began to focus on the causes of human isolation and how prejudice impedes that connection. His 1987 off-Broadway play, Frankie and Johnny in the Clair de Lune, made into a major motion picture with Al Pacino and Michelle Pfeiffer. That was a turning point in his career. In addition to being a playwright, he was an outstanding librettist and won the 1993 Tony Award for Best Book of a Musical. It was the first of 5 Tony Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019. McNally's other plays from this period include the 1994 look at the relationships of 8 gay men called Love, Valor, Compassion, which won him a second Tony Award. The following year, Masterclass, a study of the 20th century legendary opera diva Maria Callas, won the Tony Award for Best Play and revealed McNally's profound understanding of the sacrifices required by artists in the service of his or her art. Terrence McNally's work consistently addressed the important issues of his time and made remarkable contributions to the American theater and the American psyche. He never hesitated to take on difficult and complex issues and knew the necessary role of a playwright is to pose the questions that society needs to answer, all the while retaining the connection between the audience and the characters. As one reviewer wrote, if you can know a person by the company he keeps, you can judge a playwright by the talent that sticks by him. By this measure, Terrence McNally was one of the most important dramatists of the last 50 years. Today we are both lucky and pleased to have join us some of the talented, gifted, who were loyal friends to the end of his life and are among the audience here today. Our very first speaker is the Honorable Gail Brewer, the 27th Borough President of Manhattan, who just yesterday was reelected because she is term limited in her current role. Stay tuned on this one. She was reelected by overwhelming margins that she was too modest to reveal, but you can imagine. And she deserves it. She is the representative for her Upper West Side district and beyond, and has been an outstanding advocate. In fact, I first met Gail Brewer at a ceremony for Miles Davis that was a terrific jazz festival at the same time, because many people who had played with him through the years were part of the program. And everybody was introduced and got enthusiastic response. And then I introduced Gail Brewer, and the response was thunderous, which I have never heard for any political figure at any time in his or her career. And I said, we must know each other better. And I think we do. And it's all for my good fortune. In any case, she's worked as a tireless advocate for social justice and against discrimination, supporting legislation to guarantee paid sick leave for most hourly workers, to protect domestic workers from abuse, and to enhance the transparency of city government's actions. Her many meaningful initiatives, which really are too numerous to list, have consistently been initiated in the interest of equity, fairness, and the public good to improve the lives of her constituents. She joins us today to present a special commendation to recognize Terrence McNally's significant contributions to our city and to the theater. It's an honor to present newly elected councilperson, Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much. This is a huge honor, but I want to tell you a story before I present the proclamation, which is Barbara Lee Diamond-Spiegel is a wonderful preservationist and is often way ahead of us in terms of where are the landmarks for cultural history. So she told the history, yeah, but you got to hear this story because anybody who's a Saturday night or comic should take this because you can't make it up. So what happens is she had this amazing Miles Davis ceremony, jazz musicians. I didn't get that big an applause. They just all know me because it was on the Upper West Side. Long story short, she has this gorgeous plaque. Well, it turns out that the building has a friggin' violation. And who knew that you can't put a plaque on a building that has a violation? I still have that stupid plaque on my desk. We're working to get it. We found out 2 years later that we can fill out some paperwork, nobody ever told us for 2 years, to go around the violation. Okay, so it took me 6 months to get the co-op board to fill out the piece of paper to go around the violation. Great. Then it turned out they didn't like the location. We even got Landmarks Conservation to find us a person who could put a nail into a brownstone correctly. $325 and a special paper. All right, so I got the nail, I got the papers, but then I have another problem. It turns out the co-op board, it's a small building, didn't want it in the building. So then I called a neighbor. I said, do you know anybody who lives in this friggin' building? Because I can't get the co-op board to agree to put it on the building. She knew the flower lady. I said, who the hell is the flower lady? Well, she plants flowers in the tree pit. I know her. She lives in the building. I said, great, can you go talk to the flower lady? So she talked to the flower lady, and we think we have an agreement to put the plaque on like a small wall that is near the flowers. We're not there yet, though. It's still on my desk. Just so you know, this amazing woman, she gave up. I'm not giving up. She gave it to me. So I just want to thank this building for being so phenomenal to the family. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh my God. Like I said, comedy comes in strange places. But I do want to thank Barbara Lee, as you all do, for her many, many years of understanding the importance of these cultural histories and commemorating them and not forgetting who the great New Yorkers are. And so I'm here, thanks to her and to all of you, to present a proclamation to the family. Let me read it, and then please come up, because it is a real honor to be here today. It says, the Bard of American Theater, Terrence McNally, led a thriving career over 6 decades with his plays, musicals, and operas routinely performed all over the world. Mr. McNally was the recipient, as you all know, and as you just heard, of 5 Tony Awards with Love, Valor, Compassion, and Masterclass, both winning the Best Play. Kiss of the Spider-Woman and Ragtime, winning for the Best Book of a Musical, and finally being recognized with the 2019 Tony Award for Lifetime Achievement. He understood the most important function of theater was to create community and bridge rifts caused by differences in religion, race, gender, and particularly sexual orientation. If I add, nothing has changed. We all still need this support. He generously donated his papers covering the 1950 to 2002 to his alma mater's Harry Ransom Center at the University of Texas at Austin, so that theater scholars and enthusiasts can continue to study his very special life. Although born in Florida, it was well known that Mr. McNally had a very deep affection for New York City and was truly a New Yorker at heart, as we all are. So it is only fitting that he will be memorialized with this esteemed cultural medallion bestowed by the Historic Landmarks Preservation Center and this amazing woman who's sitting to my left. So I, Gail Brewer, as your Manhattan Borough President, do hereby commend Terrence McNally for his contributions to our beloved New York City and proclaim Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, Terrence McNally Appreciation Day in the Borough of Manhattan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail Brewer. We're all of us anxiously awaiting your important role at the City Council, and I think you can count on everyone here and their support. Tony and Olivier Award-winning producer Tom Kirdahy was the husband of Terrence McNally. He most recently produced the epic two-part play, The Inheritance, was nominated for 11 Tonys and winner of the 2021 Tony for Best Play. The musical Hadestown, winner of 8 Tony Awards, and the revival of Little Shop of Horrors, which won the Drama Desk, Drama League, and Outer Critics Circle Award for Best Revival of a Musical. He was the valedictorian of his class at NYU, where he also received his law degree. He served as a public advocate at the Nassau-Suffolk Law Services, representing people with HIV/AIDS, and first met Terrence McNally in the summer of 2001. 2 years later, they entered a civil union in Vermont and were legally wed in 2010 in celebration of the Supreme Court's decision to legalize same-sex marriage in all 50 states. They renewed their vows at New York City Hall with Tom's college roommate officiating, Mayor Bill de Blasio. That was on June 26, 2015. Thank you, Tom. Could you come and join us now? And you might start by not only telling us how you first met Terrence, could you start by telling us how he met John Steinbeck to get every person's dream job?
Terrence was a stage manager at the Actors Studio and wrote a play that the folks at the Actors Studio thought was unproducible, but they thought he had some talent. And so Ilya Kazan's wife introduced him to the Steinbeck family and said, I think that you might get along well. And there were professional tutors that Steinbeck just didn't think would be a good fit for his family. And so John and Elaine Steinbeck hired Terrence to go around the world with them, and he tutored their children. It was his first job out of college. Yeah. I think we're going to let Tyne go first. Is that okay?
This man cannot. He is producing everything.
Okay, here's the deal. I am not Tom Kirdahy. My name is Tyne Daly, and you're Barbara Lead. I'm trying to remember everybody's name. At any rate, it's out of order for me to for Tom to not to speak last. So wait a second, sweetie. Just wait a second. I'm only here to say that Mr. McNally was a friend of mine and a great poet and he would have hated poet. He doesn't like poetry. A playwright, a wordsmith, we used to call it in the theater. And I was privileged to know him. And I know that he belonged here in New York City. So that makes this afternoon so important that he get an honoring, sort of a permanent honoring here for finding the place where you belong. I've been thinking a lot the last couple of weeks about Terrence because we've at last been able to have a memorial for him. We had to put it on hold because we all know why, about the pandemic. And some work, you've heard a lot of his credits, you've heard a lot about his plays. What I came to about the sum total of his work was that we should turn to one another. Take a look at all the plays and all the laughs and all the setups and all of the plots. It's mostly about turning to one another. So before I let you hear from Tom and his beautiful family, the big family, and Peter, his brother who is here, I would like to ask you literally now to turn to one another and say hello. Yeah, you. I'm grateful that you're all here, and I'd like to now introduce the beautiful and loving husband of my friend Terrence McNally, Mr. Tom Kirdahy.
This is immersive theater. Yeah. Here are your glasses. This is really, we love DIY theater. Okay. As many of you know, Terrence was born in 1938 in St. Petersburg, Florida. After living for a brief time in Port Chester, New York, his family moved to Corpus Christi, Texas. At the age of 18, he moved to New York to attend Columbia. He never looked back. Terrence loved being a New Yorker. He loved the sights and sounds and smells of the city. He loved the museums, the parks, the restaurants, the buildings, the subway. But he loved two things about New York the most: the people and the theater. You could argue he viewed them as one and the same. He viewed people as inherently theatrical. This, from one of his last plays, not yet seen here in New York, Unusual Acts of Devotion. This scene takes place on the roof of a cold water flat in Greenwich Village, the character Leo speaking to a neighbor. Takes my breath away every time. This is a fantastic city. I mean, look at it. You got uptown, downtown, the west side, the east side, the Hudson River, the East River, bridges everywhere you look, and tunnels you can't even see. Is any place anywhere anything like this? I don't think so. I mean, if you're going to live somewhere, why wouldn't you live here? We got it all. What don't we have that people want? We got schools, banks, mass transportation, a couple of great parks. Sometimes in the summer there's concerts in them. Remember Simon and Garfunkel? Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. I digress. The Staten Island Ferry, LaGuardia Airport. On a clear night like tonight, you can watch the planes taking off and landing from your own roof. Landmarks, the Empire State Building. It's right in my own backyard. Can they say that in Vermont? I don't think so. Sometimes I think Nadine married me for my city and not myself. We got rich people, poor people, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, and I'm sure I'm leaving someone out. My apologies, whoever you are. Good people, bad people, straight, gay, mezzo people, bi, tri, old, young, sick, healthy, you name them, we got them. This is God's kingdom on earth. He put us all here in a big pot and stirred and said to himself, I am well pleased. It's the truth. Living here is a spiritual experience, and if you don't realize that, if you are walking around these streets or sitting in Washington Square Park with your head up your keister, you are missing the entire point of being here. Am I right? Yes, Terrence, my angel, you are right. Terrence's last public photo was in the New York Times T magazine. He appeared along with some of you in a profile on the artistic pedigree of the neighbors of 9th Street. In that profile, the journalist Kate Guadagnino noted, in New York City, your neighborhood is not just where you live, it represents who you are. Truer words were never spoken, though I'd extend that to suggest that the building where you live represents an even deeper truth of your being. Terrence and I were a mixed marriage. He went to Columbia, I went to NYU. We forgave each other. He had the Ivy League diploma, but I took particular pride in the fact that he chose to live here in the Village. When we met in 2000, he was well settled in this building. The first time I came to visit him here, I fell more deeply in love. I felt instantly at home. Terrence loved living in this building, and I understood why. He needed to be around people who loved art and literature and architecture and music and books and laughter and respect and irreverence and kindness and excellence and compassion. He loved the fact that there were so many artists and collectors in this building, that this building was rich with a love for the visual and performing arts, the wonder of design, the glory of architecture, and neighbors who cared so deeply about the world around them. He loved nothing more than being able to walk our dog in Washington Square Park. He'd soak in the gorgeous parade of humanity on full display in the park, and no doubt find inspiration for his plays, works that so beautifully explored the deep, aching human need to connect. Terrence genuinely loved the citizens of 2945 East 9th Street. The doormen, our super and his team, the tenants and their pets. It made him happy to see our neighbors on the street as he'd walk our dog or when we'd run into people on our way to or from the theater. So many of you helped as his health declined. You would hold the elevator, bring food, leave flowers, offer to run errands. Home was always a sanctuary for us as a result of the goodness of the people in these buildings. And it gave him a safe place to write, to create, a place where his imagination poured forth and his words found their way onto stages and in universities across the globe. A place where, as the New York Times called him, the bard of the American theater would conjure new worlds, new characters, new conflicts, new ways for human beings to connect, new ways to explore the transformative power of art. When Terrence died, the world wept. He had chronicled a pandemic, and in a cruel bit of dramatic irony, a pandemic took him out. And yet his work lives on in the plays, musicals, operas, and lives of the countless people who were touched and changed by the bravery and deep emotional truths of his work. I want to thank Barbara Lee and the New York Historic Landmarks Preservation Society. I want to thank Gail Brewer. I want to thank Brian Stokes Mitchell and Jake Heggie and Tyne Daly and my amazing team, Cynthia Tong, Richard Briggy, Alex Crawford, Sam Myers, and Santino D'Angelo for helping make today happen. But I especially want to thank the residents and employees of 2945 East 9th Street. Neighbors old and new embraced us as a couple. You have laughed with us, cried with us, celebrated our triumphs, and extended kindness when things were less than triumphant. Most of all, you enhanced our home lives immeasurably. In the section devoted to Terrence in that same New York Times piece I quoted earlier about the neighbors of 9th Street, Terrence said, 9th Street always struck me as very lovely, and I'd think, gee, I'd like to live there. I fell in love with my apartment the minute I opened the door. 9th Street is a place of doers, achievers, people who are involved, not nostalgic, not lazy. There's a briskness to everybody's step. I feel at home here. You know it when you found a place you belong. Now with this medallion, Terrence, you belong here forever. Thank you.
Baritone Brian Stokes Mitchell has been a leading man on Broadway since the 1990s. His role in the 2000 revival of Kiss Me Kate earned him a trifecta of awards: a Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical, the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Actor in a Musical, and the Outer Critic Circle Award for Outstanding Actor. He debuted on Broadway in the award-winning musical Male in 1988. His Broadway credits include Kiss of the Spider Woman, 1993, and in the 1998 Broadway musical Ragtime, he originated the role of Coalhouse Walker, for which he received a Tony Award nomination for Best Actor in a Musical. Since 1998, he's been a trustee, and since 2004, chairman of the board of the Actors Fund. He is the recipient of the Isabel Stevenson Tony Award for his more than 20 years of dedicated work with the Actors Fund. We're very pleased to have him join us today to speak about Terrence and his work and friendship. Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Let's see, are we working here? There we go. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm really honored that Tom asked me to bring some music to the proceeding today with Mr. Jake Heggie on the piano as well. And thank you, Jake, so much. The song that Tom asked us to do today is a song that, now I see the problems with this microphone. I know Terrence is laughing and having the best time right now watching this whole thing going up. He is absolutely, he would have written this whole thing in a show. So this is, everything happens exactly as it's supposed to. Anyway, the song I'm going to sing is called The Quest. It is actually more properly known as The Impossible Dream. But I prefer the title, The Quest, actually, because when people hear the song, the title, The Impossible Dream, they tend to think the song is about trying to do the impossible. And the song is not about that. The song is about trying, period. And if ever there was somebody who was really great at trying, it was Terrence McNally. Whether he was facing physical challenges or whether he was facing that most terrifying thing to a writer, a blank piece of paper, he was always up for trying and making something beautiful and wonderful and putting a beautiful spirit in this planet. So as I sing these words now, it makes me think of Terrence and your journey together and his journey and all that he has accomplished. But I also think about the characters that he wrote about are all captured in the lyrics of this song as well. But I guess they're one and the same, since all of those characters are actually Terrence as well. So I'm so pleased to be singing this song for all of you and for Terrence as well. What do you say, Jake? And of course, there's a big, huge bus about to come by, but Terrence would love that as well. Bus is in the scene, absolutely, Tyne.
Imagine a windmill.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the rights without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. Thank you. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Mr. Mitchell, hello there. Dare I say encore? But I will make a small confession. I have heard you sing this song at a small gathering about 20 years ago with far less authority than you did today. It was a small dinner party for Mitch Lee, who kept on prodding you, get up and sing.
Yes.
And it was memorable then, but even greater today. Thank you so much. Memorable. Wow. Before we unveil the medallion, and Tom, would you go there? I have a few words to say. A little commercial for all of our work, in the hope that this wonderful, hello there. That this wonderful audience will join us at some of the other of our programs. On the 10th of November, the remarkable historian Heather Cox Richardson will speak on the enduring fight for America at 6:30 at the New York Historical Society as part of our program of the new institute that is there for New York history, politics, and community activism. and here is the living example. And we will have a late fall convening of the New York Landmarks 50 Plus Alliance, called 50 Plus, frankly, because our logo was designed by the late Massimo Vignelli, and we intend to keep it for as long as we can, and certainly to the 60th anniversary of the Landmarks Law, which has transformed our city. That will take place in 2025. And on December 9th from 12 to 2, another convening, which is Joy Bivens, the director of the Schomburg Center, Carol Bogert, the former number 2 at Human Rights Watch, now the president of the Marshall Project, Paul Goldberger, Pulitzer Prize-winning architectural critic, Thomas Lupke, the secretary of the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts, Shannon O'Neill, the vice president and deputy director of the Council on Foreign Relations, Nadine Orenstein, the Drew Hines curator in charge of the Department of Drawings and Prints, and Sophia Grace Carter, who will help orchestrate that day. Details on all events can be found at our webpage for the Diamondstein Spielvogel Institute. We hope you will come to that and everything else. Most things are free of charge, and you can hear from the roster of guests. They are all very well prepared to talk to you about what they do, and I hope even why they do it. And now back to why we are convened today. Tom Kirdahy will please unveil the cultural medallion and read the text of Terrence McNally's before my assistant, you're going to read it. Before my assistant producer changed the order of things, Brian Stokes Mitchell was to sing now, but I think he's disappeared when I said encore. Please, Tom, can you read it?
Terrence McNally, November 3rd, 1938 to March 24th, 2020. 29 East 9th Street, Manhattan. The playwright, librettist, and screenwriter, whose career spanned 6 decades, lived and worked here from 1996 until his death in 2020. At the age of 18, he moved to New York City from Corpus Christi, Texas, where he grew up, to attend Columbia University and graduated in 1960. Just 4 years later, he made his Broadway debut as a playwright. Though unsuccessful, the play boldly explored gay themes, rare at the time, and foreshadowed his most important works, written during the AIDS crisis. After an early string of well-regarded comedies, including The Ritz, he wrote his breakthrough play in 1987, Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Lune, about the human need to connect. During the next decade, he wrote prolifically, including Masterclass in 1995, a fictionalized account of Maria Callas and the sacrifices she made for art. McNally wrote librettos for several Broadway musicals, including Kiss of the Spider-Woman 1992 and Ragtime 1997, and won 5 Tony Awards and an Emmy Award in 1990. He was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame in 1996 and into the American Academy of Arts and Letters in 2018.
Thank you. And most of all, thanks to each and all of you, the audience. And if you like that cultural medallion, if you might know of an individual who's made a significant contribution and have verifiable information regarding where they lived or worked or played in a building that still exists, please let us know. Thanks to each and all of you for joining us today, for celebrating the remarkable life and work of Terrence McNally. Thank you.